everyone. Hope you're doing well and enjoying your week so far. Hopefully you've been able to get outside the last couple days or last week or so and enjoy some of the nicer days we have as we head into summer here and as the season changes. This week we're going to continue to look at stories of the Bible that we may know or we may have heard, and ask ourselves the question, what does this story mean for our life today? Does this story mean anything, or is it just a story? We'll continue this for one more week. Next week will be our last week of doing this theme, and then we'll move on from there. So this week, we're going to look at a story that happens later in the book of John. It's one of the last stories that we get in the Gospel of John, and it's really about Peter. Okay, Peter is one of Jesus's most important disciples, and he's with him basically from the beginning of his ministry. Now, we probably all have heard the story or remember it, that when Jesus was arrested, Peter denied Christ 3 times. 3 different times people came up to him and asked him, "Do you know him, or aren't you with him? Aren't you one of the disciples?" And Peter said no, all 3 times. And that's the last conversation Peter has with Jesus before he dies on the cross. And so Peter's kind of left with this, I would think, really guilty feeling, right? Or this feeling of just like, what did I do? I've let Jesus down when he most needed me. And this story occurs after Jesus has risen from the dead, and he's appeared to Mary Magdalene and some of the disciples. And it's right after the story of the great catch. The great catch is where, or the miraculous catch, is where Jesus sees some of his disciples fishing right in the Sea of Galilee, and says to them, throw your nets over here. And they get this huge just catch of fish. And it's at that point that the disciples realize this is Jesus. He's come back. And so they're sitting down, and it says after they have eaten is when this story that we're going to talk about happens. And what happens is Jesus asks Peter, "Do you love me?" 3 different times. And each time Peter says, "Yes, Lord, I love you. Yes, I love you. Christ, Jesus, you know that I love you." And at the end of that, right, Peter, what's kind of cool to me is Jesus asked him 3 times, just like the 3 times that he denied Christ. And Peter says, "Yes, yes, yes, of course I love you." And Jesus kind of gives him a challenge, or just kind of what his life is going to look like from now on. And he ends with these words, and he says, someone else, and he's talking about what will happen to Peter in the future. And he says, "Someone else will dress you and lead you where you do not want to go." And he's referring to that Peter will now be led by God and be led by Jesus to go places, to do things, to start his church. But they may not be things that Peter wants to do, right? He's going to go places that maybe he doesn't want to go. And so for us this week, I want you to think about where is God leading you that you don't want to go? Maybe it's a physical location. Maybe you're kind of feeling that right now anyway. Like, I don't want to be here. I don't want to be home. But I want you to think of it also as kind of this about your spiritual journey. Where is God leading me that I don't want to go? Maybe it's into a relationship, a closer relationship with him. Maybe it's into a new way of thinking. Or maybe it's a relationship with someone else. Maybe it's he's leading you into a relationship or a closer relationship with a friend or family member, and you're like, I really don't want to be friends with that person, or I don't want to hang out with my little brother anymore. But where is God leading you that maybe you don't want to go? And ask yourself, is it worth it for me, just for me not to want to go, even though God's leading me there? Who should really dictate where I lead my life? And so I write about that in the blog a little bit this week, as long as a discussion guide. You can check that out on our website as well. Our movie this week is Contact. It is a movie basically that humanity or Earth gets this signal. Okay, we don't know where this signal comes from, other than it's not from our planet. Okay, it's this kind of this signal from outer space. And there's 2 main characters in the movie, that play a prominent role in how we respond as kind of a human race. What is this signal? What is this contact, right, the name of, that's reaching out, mean for us? And the two main characters, one's a scientist and one's a priest. And so notice in the movie how they react, and the main two things is what they're hoping for, what they're hoping that this signal means or this contact means. And then also what drives them, what faith or what do they believe in that's driving them. And so they're very different approaches, but they're very similar in nature. And so you have these two different people who have a different faith background, but are also hoping for different things or looking for different things. So just notice the differences that they have and kind of compare and contrast them as they react to this contact from the outside world. So that's all I have for us this week. We'll have one more week of these videos and then we'll move on from there. Thanks and have a great day.